Hello, this is Giant Tank 1400, and this is Top 100 Works of Animation 80 through 61. And what I mean by works of animation, it's basically cartoons, animated movies, and like anime and like claymation, all that stuff. And this is like just my personal list, so if you don't see like something on there, maybe I haven't seen it, or maybe I just don't like it, or whatever. This is my favorite list, if you will. So I'm not saying, oh, these cartoons or animations are like objectively better than the other. It's just like kind of my experience on the whole thing of what I personally enjoyed the most, and like nostalgic has a lot to do with it and stuff. Anyway, so let's get on to the list. Again, that's 80 through 61. Number 80 is Shaolin Showdown. Now, there's actually two Shaolin Showdown shows. I don't remember what the second one was called, the new one, but that one kind of like really sucked. It's the original Shaolin Showdown. I think it was like early 2000s or something like that. It came out, and basically what the show's about is you got like four representatives of the Shaolin school hunting down the Shangan Wu, I believe they're called, and then you do these Shaolin Showdowns to kind of compete against who's going to get these the Shangan Wu. It's a really interesting action show. My one complaint about it is the main character Omi, they kind of focus too much on, and kind of like the secondary character Raimundo, who ends up like actually sort of being like a main character, like a main protagonist. He ends up like succeeding where Omi doesn't, which is something I really enjoy about the show. However, it was just too much Omi, and the other two characters, Kimiko and Clay, I believe his name was, they really don't get too much time to shine. They do like an episode every season, which is like absolute garbage, and Omi gets like 15 or something like that. It's basically really heavily weighed into Omi, and it's a very episodic show, so they don't really have to do that. That's like my one complaint about the show, but the show is definitely fun. It's definitely action packed. It definitely has some pretty good humor. Jack Spicer is really funny, and that ghost witch girl is kind of funny. I really liked Hamilton Bean too, and then the villains were always really good too. So the show overall was really great. It's just my only complaint was it's just like too much Omi. It was just too much, and it's like his character never really grew. However, I did like the show, and that's my number 80, Shaolin Showdown. My number 79 is the movie Tangled by Disney, I believe. It's not by Pixar. Yeah, it's by Disney. Anyway, Tangled is basically about Rapunzel letting down her hair and having Eugene, who Flynn the rider, as he's known at the beginning, climbs up her hair or whatever, and like kind of rescues her. The interesting part about this movie though is like just Rapunzel's character, how she is so like she's so naive and so childish and so innocent in like the movie that it actually like wears off on like these thugs and everything. Like not all the characters, like not all the villains are like affected by it, but like some of the thugs when they walk into the bar, like all of them are. It was just very interesting. Like she's a very interesting character, not necessarily like the best character like for character growth and stuff, but she kind of learns like not to be she sort of learns not to be like so like naive about like completely trusting people, as she realizes her mother's lying to her and stuff. So it was definitely interesting. The love story between Rapunzel and Eugene is, to be honest, not that good, because it's very like they spend like a day together, or like you could maybe say 2 days, and they're already like in love. It's just like no, that doesn't really happen in real life, and that definitely gets like a minus in my book, like a thumbs down. However, I did think the movie was enjoyable. The animation quality was pretty good, and I did have like fun watching the movie. I thought it was, like I said, I thought Rapunzel's character was interesting, and Eugene's character growth is actually pretty good. How he becomes from selfish to selfless at the end of the movie. So it was very interesting. Kind of the way they do it. Like I said, the romantic side of it. It's just like, oh, these characters fall in love in like 2 days of being together. It just that doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, so that's my number 79, Tangled. My number 78 is Frozen. Yes, another Disney movie. I obviously have kind of the similar feelings for Tangled and Frozen. I like Frozen a little more because its love story is actually actually more like believable, if you will, as you have it wasn't Elsa, it was like Anna like fall for actually like the main villain who's just using her like right away, and it gets the kind of that trope of the girl like falls for the guy like right away and they end up happily ever after, and how that never really happens in real life. And this one, it actually shows that like just falling for someone instantly like that is not a good idea, as he turned out to be, well, a really bad guy who actually just wanted power for himself. And then you got Elsa, who's actually an interesting character as well, and how her character growth. And then you got that one I can't remember his name. I've only seen the movie like a few times, but the main guy in the movie, not Olaf's the snowman, but anyway, he has like a good like character growth throughout the thing, and Anna, how she kind of saves her sister at the end, that was pretty well done. So I do think the movie was better than Tangled, especially since it actually got rid of like one of Tangled's tropes of the girl falls for the guy almost instantly. It was just like, I'm glad they did that. I'm really happy about that. So that's my number 78, Frozen. My number 77 is The Fox and the Hound, and this movie really brings me back to it's a very nostalgic for me. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Basically, you got the fox and the hound, as the movie suggests, and they've actually become friends like when they're like puppies, or like when they're really young. And the hound, the dog, grows up to be like a hunter's dog, and they're actually kind of hunting. I believe it was like, it might not have been hunting, it might have been like sheep herding or something like that. I can't really remember. However, it turns out that the hound is going to be enemies of the fox, and you got kind of got this mini love interest between the fox and like his girlfriend or whatever, and how he saves her. But it ends up like being the hound that really really pulls through, and like I believe it was the hound, it might have been the fox or whatever, but they end up like kind of rekindling their friendship a little bit. And despite the fact that you have two really opposing, like it's almost like two brothers or something like that from countries that are at war with each other, and how they end up actually helping each other out even though they're not supposed to. So it was definitely like an interesting concept, and I remember from my childhood watching it. Pretty good movie overall, and I'm very fond in nature, so it was really good to kind of see like aminals kind of in their like natural environment. Same with like I mentioned Alpha and Omega in the last video. It's kind of good not to see like anthropomorphic aminals, actually these aminals in that they're walking on four legs and in their natural environment. So that's my number 77, The Fox and the Hound. My number 76 is Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo, I believe it was like the early 2000s or like the late 90s or something like that. Yeah, no, it was probably the 90s, late 90s or something. But Johnny Bravo is a character who is completely outrageous towards women, and he just like flirts with any woman, like anything in a skirt basically. And it's just hilarious because he never gets the girl. He just gets pepper sprayed. He just gets like flipped over. He gets hurt so many times for these things, and that's what makes the show funny, because he's doing these outrageous things that you really shouldn't do, and he's getting hurt by it. So there's consequences to his actions, and the show obviously shows that. The show's also kind of about like Johnny, and he's really not that smart at all, but he has like his mother, and then he has his like neighbor, and there's like a few other characters who Johnny interacts with that is that actually they actually is friends with, and they're actually kind to him in return. But when it comes to like their average girl, he just like flirts with them, and they just pepper spray him, they electrocute him. It's like they taser him and stuff. It's just hilarious seeing that. I mean, the things he says is just completely outrageous, and you would never be able to get away with it on like a cartoon nowadays. That's meant for kids or whatever. However, when it was airing, it was just really funny overall. And the reason it was funny was because, not because he was saying these mean things to these women, but because he was getting hurt for doing it. Because there's actually consequences for a guy acting like a pig, which, if every guy acted like a pig got this kind of treatment, we would actually see a lot less guys act like pigs. So that's my number 76. That's Johnny Bravo. My number 75 is the Thundercats. Now, not the new one, because I never actually saw the new one, but the older one, the one like I think it was in the 90s or something like that. At least I watched it in the 90s, and basically the Thundercats, kind of a group of, well, they're aliens, but they have like kind of superpowers, if you will, and they're fighting off against like their main bad guy, which I have no memory of what this guy was at all. I think he was like, he I can't remember his name, but I have a picture of him in my head. Anyway, so they're fighting him. It's just this classic like good versus evil, and how like the Thundercats are like helping the new world they're living in, because they're aliens. Their planet was built up, and it really focuses on the main character. And again, I can't remember his name. However, I just really enjoyed this show like as a kid. It was like really it had a lot of action, and it had like some comedy and then stuff. If you kind of enjoy that thing, I would recommend giving it a taste. So that's my number 75, Thundercats. My number 74 is the movie Cars. Not Cars 2, not Cars 3. I've never seen Cars 3, but just the original Cars. I really like this concept of the main character, the main car, Speed. It was like Lightning or something. Lightning McQueen was his name, and he just gets stopped in this old town that's like not connected to the highway anymore. I mean, it kind of is, but like people don't stop there anymore because of the highway, and it's kind of like run down because of that. And there's actually this old racer here who kind of teaches him some new tricks. He meets a girl there that he falls for. It's just that classic story where this person who's like living up life, living the city life, like it's trapped in this like this small town, and he actually learns a lesson about it and how kind of the simpler life might be a little better. Classic, and I really did enjoy the movie Cars. So that's my number 74, Cars. My number 73 is the Lady and the Tramp 2 Scamp's Adventure. Now, Lady and the Tramp, the original one, did not make my list. I watched that movie and I do not really like it. It's like not even on my short list. However, the second one, Scamp's Adventure, I really enjoy for a few reasons. I like Scamp's character, how he like went off. He was very naive about everything, was kind of being used and stuff, and his like love interest, which I can't remember her name, has this whole like interesting character arc where she kind of wants Scamp's life, and Scamp kind of wants her life, and Scamp kind of realizes that he actually had a good life, and she actually goes from like owner to owner, but she really wanted an owner, and she ends up getting it in the end, of course. However, her story like directly interacts with like what Scamp was going through. I kind of really like that dynamic between the two, which is Lady and the Tramp was kind of, it sort of tried to do that, but it was like I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it as much. This one though, like that, it's kind of like the reverse dynamic, and I just think it's because of that it's done actually better. And how Scamp wants her life and she wants like Scamp's life, and it was like Scamp realizes that he was wrong and she was actually right. I just really like that, and so that's my number. I think I'm at 73 now. Yeah, 73. The Lady and the Tramp 2: Scamp's Adventure. My 72 is The Prince of Egypt. Now, The Prince of Egypt goes on the story of Moses from like the Old Testament, Exodus, and well, not the whole Exodus, just like kind of the beginning chapters. I think it's like the first like 12 chapters or something like that. Anyway, like as a Christian, like I personally really enjoy this story, and this is kind of my first, like, as a young kid, this is my first really exposure to that story and everything, and I personally really enjoy it. It's they take the story from the Bible, put it like in cartoon form, and if memory serves, they actually do follow it pretty closely to what Exodus is actually saying. It's not exact, of course. I mean, how could it be? However, I do like how that they do follow like the burning bush, and like Moses talking to God, and like Moses' like transformation after talking to God, and like the plagues and everything. I thought it was definitely an interesting movie, but kind of the reason it makes this list is because it really adapts like Exodus into a movie that like children can enjoy. So that's my number. I think we're at 72 now, if memory serves. 72, The Prince of Egypt. My 71 is The Flintstones, and The Flintstones is just a great, really a fun show. I liked it more than the Jetsons, just because Mr. Flintstone's character, what was his name? I can't remember his first name, but Fred Flintstone. That's it. Of course it is. He was just such an interesting character. How he just tried to get away with stuff from his wife, and his wife finds out. And it's just like Wilma. The show was so funny, and then you got Barney Rubble with his wife. His wife was like very like the definition like of a supporting character. However, it was interesting to see how Fred Flintstone kind of got into all these really all these situations he shouldn't even have been in, and he's trying to avoid like trying to like do these stories for his wife and stuff. It was just really really fun show. So that's my number 71, The Flintstones. My number 70 is Doug. Now, Doug is a show that follows Doug Funny and his like dog and his best friend and stuff. I don't remember their names. I don't really remember much about the show. What I do remember is like really enjoying the show, and if I had a better memory of it, it would probably be way higher on this list. But it was just like them in high school, and you have like his bully and stuff, and him dealing with day-to-day life, and him dealing with his crush. What was their name? Like Patty or something like that. It was just a fun show overall, and just it was funny. It was definitely interesting to watch. So that's my number 70, Doug. My number 69 is Winnie-the-Pooh. Now, I remember watching Winnie-the-Pooh as a child again, like elementary school age and early elementary school age and stuff like that. It was just interesting to see like Pooh Bear's like interactions. Like he's such like an interesting character because he's not like the best at anything. He's just kind of goofy, and he likes his honey, and it was just interesting dynamic seeing like him interaction with the other characters. And of course, like I really enjoyed like Igor's character and Tigger's character, like the bunny's characters I can't remember. They had these like all unique personalities. The tiger's very energetic and just like way too energetic, whereas Igor's like all sad and depressed and really really down. However, like all these characters were just really interesting overall, and it was just fun to watch as a kid. So that's my number 69, Winnie the Pooh. My number 68 is Rugrats. Now, as a kid, I loved Rugrats. I saw like all the episodes up until like pretty much Dill's introduced and stuff. The reason Rugrats isn't that much higher on the list is because I don't really recall that many episodes. I recall some of them here and there, and I know I really enjoyed it as a kid. Like, it was one of my favorite shows of all. It was like one of my favorite shows as a kid, like one of my favorite childhood shows. However, it's like I said, I don't really remember like the episodes to deal with. I remember the characters. I love the characters, which is why I love All Grown Up so much. The characters, All Grown Up is a lot higher, by the way. However, Rugrats was just a great show overall. And I remember Chucky, Tommy, Dill, Phil, Lil. Dill didn't really play that much of a role. Angelica, of course, Susie. All these characters are great. I didn't really get to see like Kimmy that well introduced because I kind of stopped watching the show at that point. However, I've tried watching the show again, and just like at my age, I just didn't really enjoy it that much. So that's my number. What are we at, like 68 now? 68 Rugrats. My number 67 is Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Now, I debated putting it on this list or not. However, because I haven't seen like all the episodes, and I've only seen like probably like a dozen or so episodes of the show. However, those episodes I really enjoyed, and I really see like Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds is the best story-driven show, and like has probably some of the most well-developed characters of the whole Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, arguably. However, like just from the little I've seen, it's definitely a show that I want to come back to and just watch like all the episodes. It would definitely be interesting. I do like it better than Yu-Gi-Oh! GX because of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX early days, and I don't like it as good as Yu-Gi-Oh! Yet, but if I see all the episodes, it might be. So that's my number. What are we on? 67 Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D. My number 66 is the Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited. Now, what you have going on with this show is basically you have like the Justice League, like Superman, Batman, and all them, the Flash, like kind of the main core ones, and then Justice League Unlimited, like you introduce all these other new superheroes. They're really the same show. It's just like they just named it something else. It's like Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. It's really like it's all Naruto. I don't know why you need a new series for a time skip. Anyway, this show is kind of the same. Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. They're really the same show, and just like different seasons, if you will. And this show was definitely interesting. Like in the early 2000s, I believe. They had like story arcs sometimes it was episodic, and it was them fighting the villain, and then you kind of get more political in the kind of some of the later seasons about them fighting Lex Luthor, who's the president, and stuff like that. So the show definitely has some interesting dynamics to it. I don't know how much it relates to the comics. Never really read the DC comics. However, I really did enjoy like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and that is my number 66. My number 65 is The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah. So the original Brave Little Toaster is going to be a little higher on this list. However, I did enjoy The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. It was the second one in the trilogy I saw. I don't really remember the other one at all, so that one's not on the list. But basically, what you got is you got the toaster, like all your like characters, the vacuum and the light bulb and the radio. The radio is always really funny, and they kind of go on an adventure. I don't remember it was to get the main guy, the humans, like paperback or whatever, and they have to go to Mars for I don't exactly remember the reason for it. Or it was like it was something down the lines they had to go to Mars in order to get the paperback. I don't remember exactly what kind of plot they used for to get that. However, it was definitely interesting seeing them go to this Mars and seeing like a bunch of like satellites and stuff, and them talking to that. It's like they have like kind of a mission to get off of Mars. I think there was a baby involved or something like that. I don't really know. Anyway, so that's my number 65. The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars. My number 64 is The Emperor's New Groove. Now, Cusco, the main character, the Emperor, he is completely full of himself. That's his character. He thinks it's all about him. Even his theme song just straight out says it. And you got this other character who's trying to appeal, he's just like a farmer guy, and he's just trying to appeal to the emperor for his family to survive and stuff like that. So his house doesn't get taken down, everything he worked for, and basically the emperor Cusco gets turned into a llama, and him and the peasant guy the peasant guy ends up trying to help the emperor. He doesn't really want to at first because he's a jerk. However, I think his wife convinces him, and basically Cusco and the peasant guy, I can't remember his name, fight off against to try to get Cusco's back to being a human, and they end up doing it. And Cusco ends up learning a lesson about selflessness, and ends up not paving over the peasants' house and stuff. So it was definitely interesting dynamic. You got a character who was completely selfish turned to a little less selfless towards the end. It's always good to see that dynamic of a very selfish character and how that's wrong, and them turning into a selfless character, or at least less selfish at the end, which is the case for Cusco. So that is, what are we at, 74, The Emperor's New Groove. Our number 73 is Jackie Chan Adventures. This show was so much fun back in the day when it was coming out. It was just Jackie Chan, his niece Jade, and then I think Jackie Chan's uncle, and they have to find these talismans. At least in season 1, it turns into something else every season. However, it was really interesting to see Jackie Chan kind of kick butt, but also there's magic involved and stuff like that. It was definitely a very action packed show, as you would expect, just from the title alone. And I thought the looking back at it now, the fighting choreography was actually pretty well done, and I do appreciate it. It wasn't perfect or anything, but it was they did kind of get the motions, as far as I remember, and as far as I recall, the motions of the martial arts down pretty well. So that was actually a really good show. Jackie Chan Adventure, which is my number 63. My number 62 is Phineas and Ferb, which is a very comical show. They kind of do the same plot every episode, where basically Phineas and Ferb do something. They actually come up with something different every episode, but it's the same plot. So Phineas and Ferb come up with something they're not supposed to be doing. They're really big inventors, so create the tallest building, or time travel, or whatever it is. Candace tries to bust them by letting their mom know. Their mom never finds out. And the other kind of side plot going on is a lot of times it interferes with Phineas and Ferb's invention going away, and that's Dr. Doofenshmirtz is trying to take over the tri-state area, and Perry the Platypus, who is the Phineas and Ferb's pet, but it's also a secret agent, the best secret agent actually. He ends up stopping Dr. Doofenshmirtz. So it was really good show, and Dr. Doofenshmirtz's plan is always different, and even what he says to Perry is always different. So they have the same plot every episode pretty much. There's some variation here and there. However, they do different stuff, which it makes the show interesting. It's you're watching the same plot over and over again, but they're doing something different. So it's they're not doing something different. The plot's not different. However, the way they're executing the plot is different. It's different things, which makes the show interesting. And also the music was pretty well done as well. I'm pretty sure the creators are musicians themselves, or at least amateurs or something, casual players. Anyway, so that was my number, 62, Phineas and Ferb. My number 61 is the Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. Let me make sure I get that title right. I'll say The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. And basically, the show is about that. It's about Jimmy Neutron inventing these machines that kind of wreck the town sometimes, and he has to like save the town from his own inventions or from like a bad guy or something like that sometimes happens. His kind of relationship with Cindy is pretty interesting, as Cindy actually likes him, but she's always just really mean to him. That's always interesting. Kind of some of the side characters are just funny as well. So it's a funny show that's also kind of about science. Well, no, it's not about science. It's just about how can you like get in trouble with science? How can you wreck the town with science and stuff like that? So it definitely has like that dynamic to it. Similar, well, it's not really similar to Phineas and Ferb. However, it is kind of like that with the inventions and stuff. Anyway, so that's my number 61, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. Now that was my 80 through 61 done on my list, so that's going to be like the end of the video. Next video we're doing 60 through 41, and the video after that like 40. I'm not even going to bother explaining. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Bye.